Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We are the Hounds. My name is Joe, and I'm sitting across the table here from my good friend Dan. Dan, why don't you tell everyone hello?
Hello, everyone. Good, morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening to this. Appreciate you coming back and tuning in for another episode of the Hounds. And Joe, I got to tell you, just right off the bat here. So I was reading through some emails flying in this morning, and when the town car dropped me off at the end of your driveway, I was walking up here, and recently I was back home. I had a load of logs delivered from a tree service company.
Oh no!
And they were dumped off in the front of our house. Right, kind of where everyone driving by can see them. And as I had that on my mind as I walked up, and I noticed all of the stuff in your driveway here. And I was just wondering, because my wife the next day told me those logs better be out of the front of the house immediately.
Oh no!
And move to the back wood yard. And
some wives just don't understand, do they?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because, like I mentioned, we have an email from John, and he was wondering the same thing. Like, how?
You mean, hold on. Do you mean we have an email?
Oh, yes, we do have an email.
Well, you know what that means? That means that this is our new segment called Listener Mail.
Yes, so listener mail. Yes, so the email was from John, and like I said, he was kind of just wondering how we went about involving family into either like the firewood business or just firewood in general, because he's kind of thinking about, once he retires, getting into firewood. So he wanted any, I guess, maybe tips, information, or just how that all came to be with us.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, with me, I kind of get notified of, I get notices like, how long are those logs going to be in the front of the house? Like hints.
Yeah. My recommendation for him is heat your house with gas. Yeah. I have the most understanding wife in the world. Now, we've had a set of special circumstances which had led to the way our house looks from the street. But I have made a lot of commitments and a lot of promises that I've yet to uphold, but they are there. We will eventually get this place cleared up. But if you we live on acreage, we're not part of an HOA where we're in like a cul-de-sac, where every neighbor knows everyone's business. So, but still you want your place to look nice, and our place looks like a firewood bomb went off. Yeah. So we have a long way to go, but yes, I sense John's angst. if there is angst there, but I do get the spirit of John's email about getting people involved. When you have hobbies, some hobbies are more, I guess, obtrusive to your living space than others. And certainly firewood and making firewood and stacking firewood and selling firewood is can be a whole house and whole family enterprise.
Yes. And like in my case, the whole curb appeal becomes a factor. My wife is concerned with the way things look in the front of the house. So
sure.
But she doesn't mind, what's back in the wood yard. It's just that, like I said, sometimes there's hints. She doesn't come out and say, move those logs. She says, how long will they be there? Or when were you going to move those?
Yeah. In my old line of work, we called that a clue. That is a clue. That is a cryptic message to you, getting her message across.
So you got it. That's the one thing you should, if you start talking about it and dropping little hints, look for those clues, look for those tells.
In my circumstances, the support that I have is the crucial part, where I may not have as much help, out in the wood yard with this cutting and production and stacking, although I do have family support. It was just the support from my wife giving me the thumbs up to do this crazy idea.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just turned 50 at the time, I guess you could say, when I started this full time. And when you're in your 50s, you don't have a lot of room to screw up. You still have house payments, and you got kids getting ready or going away to college. So screwing up you have much more room for error when you're in your 20s versus than when you're in your 50s. But it was really just the full support of my wife, because she, I think, believed what I was going to do could work, that I was passionate about it, and that's kind of like that motivation behind everything, which makes people feel more comfortable with you, that you can get it done.
Yep.
And so that was the first part. Now, how did I gain her support? I don't know. Maybe it was just in her nature, but we have a couple things going for us. Again, we live out here on acreage. We live out here in the country, and the startup costs at the time were minimal because I already had a lot of the tools that I needed, to make it work. Now, getting her to help. Now she will, but it's not high on her list of things to do. And I also don't, just overwhelm her with requests either. When I ask for her help, it's usually when I'm in desperate need of it. So I think
Yep.
she does recognize that too. How about your wife? Is she hands off or hands on?
She's hands on, and she doesn't mind. She actually enjoys stacking firewood, so she's open to uh, being involved and being. It took a little while for her to get used to being part of the video part of the firewood part of it,
Uh-huh.
but um, but I think that's an interesting point you were bringing up about like the involvement and getting people on board. I think it's twofold. It's that whole, the support being behind it, and then also the hands-on being involved with
Sure.
it.
Yeah. Now, I have two daughters, and they both help in varying degrees. And without going into detail, the one is very quick to help. The other one will hem and haw, but it's the same thing. You learn over time what you can and can't get away with. And I think they also recognize too, there's just sometimes I really need their help. So yeah, so that they are there. Surprisingly though, the my youngest one kind of likes, the equipment, the tractors, and the older one doesn't. She likes the stacking and the loading. But you had mentioned earlier about the video portion. So Dan and I are both YouTube channels. That's where what eventually led to this podcast. But it was my oldest daughter who pushed the videos because it was fun for her to do, and she's the main camera person, and so that has been a like a family endeavor. So that's been kind of fun.
And a phenomenal camera person, I might say. Very,
Yeah.
very great at the camera work.
Yeah, she makes, I think her eyes are the viewer's eyes, and
Yep.
that's the one thing we try to do. We don't use the tripods. We don't have a lot of still shots. And it's just like if you are new watching a machine run, you're not just watching the person run it. You want to look at everything and every
Yeah.
little nook and cranny of the machine. And that's what she's able to accomplish with the camera.
So when you started, was she? You said she was like open to and wanting to film, but then when she realized this was going to be like more than just once or twice, did she say, "Oh, well, wait a minute. I didn't say I wanted to film all the time."
Yeah, I don't, I don't think the time commitment is that much. You know, I it, I'll have a task that I'm doing, and she'll come out and film it, and then she'll spend probably about an hour editing it and uploading it. So I don't think the time constraints is all that high, but it was also too like it was a a work in progress because we didn't know what we were getting into at first.
Yes.
And when the pace started, what I mean by the pace, like our growth and our subscribers, and people wanting more and more, we still stuck to that 2 a week, and it's been nice. And I think it's also something too that we've done together. Probably when she's an old lady, she'll appreciate it more than she does now. And yeah, so we had everyone involved. There was an early video, like in our first years, like on Father's Day, I had both my daughters in the video, and my older daughters made a couple other appearances, but everyone, when I say everyone, I mean almost everyone has been very nice, but there are some creepy people out there. So being a dad and all, I
Yeah,
gotta you
could
gotta
be
be
a
careful on putting stuff on.
right. So if you were going out and you had a cord of firewood to stack, and you
Yeah.
asked your daughter to help you or film it, which do you think she'd want to do? Film
Yeah.
or actually do the work?
Well, my older one's very a good worker. She will do both. She will film me if I have a thought. When we show ourselves stacking wood, it's usually, the stacking is secondary, and then I'll just be rambling off on whatever's on my mind. And I'll say, got something, and she'll pick up the camera and then she'll film me doing it. And then when my brain goes empty, she puts the camera down and continues helping me to stack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I've done it in videos where I'll my wife is stacking, and then I'll be doing like a little talking segment, and I'll lose my train of thought and then have to start
Right.
over. And by the time I finally get the words captured on camera, the work is already done. So I always get looked at as like I'm trying to get out of the work, because I'm just purposely messing up my lines, which
There you go.
I may or may not have done on occasion, but
Yeah. But outside of the camera, everyone has a role at some level, with the firewood company. And remember, we're full time. I don't have a day
yes.
job that I go to. So, the family's finances uh, depend heavily on the sale of firewood. So everyone has a role. And everyone, even if they're not 100% involved all the time, they've been around long enough to know, our own, we have terminology, for what we're loading and what's getting loaded. And I can trust them if I say, to go put a quarter in the truck, they know exactly what to do,
Yeah.
and where to set the truck and how to load it up and how the truck should be loaded. All of that's good. There's times when you're really busy and you need that extra person. If I'm out with one truck, I can tell them what to put into the other one, and that just really helps out. I rely on the younger kids for social media techniques, you know, and that was one of the first things was they kept hammering on me that I was too wordy and too much words in all my social media posts. They say it's got to be short, it's got to be like one or two sentences max. So
Yeah.
they have that level of involvement as well.
So when you, so I know your slogan or your catch line for your Ohio Woodburner is family, friends, firewood. So your
Yes.
family really is like the business all involved. It's not just that's not just a catchy word to rhyme with firewood, like
Yeah.
family, friends, food, fireworks, firewood.
Well, that slogan didn't really revolve around the fact that we're a family business. It was more about the role of firewood. I always saw that firewood was one of these things that brings people together since
Yes.
the days of the caveman. It was when it was a driving force in humans becoming a social being, when they started cooking food around the fire and sharing. And that was the role, the way that we market our firewood. But certainly, this Ohio Wood Burner is a family operation. I mean, it's largely sole proprietor, but how families are when
Yeah.
you can
Right.
families that get along.
That's right.
um, you know, I don't want to take too much liberty with Tolstoy here, but all happy families are the same. So, um, it works nice, and I enjoy what I do, and if I need help, there's people there, to do it.
Yeah, that's the key. That's the nice thing to know. Like that's what
Hmm.
in the beginning, like I mentioned, the YouTube video part of it. I mean, Amanda, she wasn't, too like jumping at the bit, like, oh, let me be in a video. I can help you do this. So we tried it for
Amanda is your wife, right?
yes,
Okay,
the amazing Amanda. She was coined. That was her name given by a bunch of subscribers and
there we
fellow.
go.
So we tried it out. We did a video. The response was good. Um, And then, I fell into that trap of I was using her just for videos for specific reasons, catering to the visual uh, delights of men around the country and world.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Do you
And
wish to expand on that? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
well, so it's like, how should I say this? I guess people like to look at, other people that they may find good to look at. I don't know, but
Yeah,
so that's always been the interesting like crux that I'm always in is if I put her in too many videos and how it's one of those
yeah,
things that I really don't care too much about anymore.
yeah. Specific to videos. Uh, I showed my wife your most recent video of your wife splitting wood, and I said, I have a great idea, and she said, absolutely not. Yeah, she has. She's very supportive. She will never appear in a video. So that's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, it's a fun little, I guess, because I am like my background is uh with pro wrestling. That when I was involved in that, you have to be at that point at some time to just say you're not going to let what other people think drive what you do.
Yeah,
So that's kind of where I'm at with the whole uh, video part of it. But she does definitely. She's even asked me, like, when can I help you? Do you have anything to do? So
oh wow.
yeah,
Well,
it's
that's good
kind
to
of
hear.
fun to now get to that point where, and then my son, he just turned 8.
Okay.
And so I'm slowly getting him involved, but I don't want to push it on him. I don't want to like make him come out and stack wood.
Yeah,
So it's been interesting to see how he kind of has been showing up more and more and like he'll stack for like 5 minutes and then be done.
yeah. But it's a hobby, it's not
Right.
unlike any other hobby that a parent would pass down to their child. Woodworking, cars, farming,
Fishing.
gardening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't see, where firewood would be any different, and then you're also giving him a lifetime of memories too.
Right. Yeah, and I think that would be if somebody like what John was asking, like how do you incorporate or how do you get your family involved with it? I would say that that's one of the main things is not to try to force it and just
Yeah,
let it happen. And above all, if you can enjoy the experience of it, because I think that's what really ends up being the thing that I remember the most from when I was a kid. Is I
sure.
hated doing it at the time, but now I look back and it's a memory that I
Yeah.
love.
One of my earliest childhood memories was a firewood trip. We had a 1973 gold Ford LTD, which LTD, if anyone doesn't know, is an acronym for large trunk department. The Ford LTD was famous for having like the largest trunk in the history of the automotive world. And we took our Ford LTD out into the country, out these 2-lane roads in the middle of winter to cut up some trees on some land that my dad worked with this guy that owned it. And while we were driving out this road, a road grader was coming the other way who was plowing. This is out in the country here back in the 70s, and he ran us right into the ditch. So our Ford was in the ditch, and he got out though and pulled us out with a chain. But we probably put about 7 full cords of firewood in the trunk of that Ford LTD. That's how big the trunk is on it. and the saw on top. So,
too
yeah,
too bad you don't still have it for a delivery vehicle, man.
yeah. Well, I think the bumper had fallen off of it by 1976, and then you couldn't see it when it was running after that because of all the blue smoke pouring out of it. So,
Ah, yes.
yeah. No,
That's
but
great.
that's just some of the things you remember. Just remember vividly. I can still see the cranks for the windows, and I can still see the pattern in the seats in that car. And it makes me think of that trip that we went out for firewood. In fact, I still have the same saw.
Wow.
It's out in my barn. It was a Poulin top handle, an old one that we took out just to cut up a couple trees.
Wow. Did it have the because my dad had a Ford, it was a truck, but it did have the little triangle windows that like would on the front you like folded them
Mm.
reverse out, or I don't even know how they really
Yeah,
work.
no, not on the LTD. It was a two door, so the doors were about as long as current cars are now. And it had a little window in the back for the back seat that did crank down, but it was
Huh.
seriously, it was probably about 4 inches wide, but it would crank down. And it was me, my brother was in the front seat, and dad was driving. I was sitting in the back seat in the center, just hanging out.
Yep. That see the, the
Hmm.
the other interesting thing with like what I'm noticing is uh with my son is he's also taking a kind of a liking to the whole YouTube side of things.
Oh, wow. Hmm.
So he's mentioned before he's going to start a channel. So,
Yeah.
but he doesn't know quite yet what the topic would be. But
Yeah.
that's where like my because I sell as kind of a hobby. So
Sure.
firewood is like the main topic, but I also have like the whole YouTube channel, and that's how I kind of been involving my family.
Hmm.
And it that's the thing that I guess one other thing I would just say when you're trying to get a family on board with anything you're probably doing is that you have to make sure you allow for that family time, because
Sure.
I could spend all day and all evening out in the wood yard and then come in and, take a shower and go to bed. And if I did that every day, I did it more and more, eventually it's not going to be looked on as something favorable to the rest of the family.
Yeah, really.
So how do you balance your, family time with if your business? I mean, it's because
Yeah.
you seem like you're busy all the time.
That's the power of the video, Dan. That is the power of editing. Yeah. So I'm new to this self-employed thing, and I was raised in a steel town, with an industrious set of parents, and that was, you go to college. I was the first one in our family to graduate from college. You go to college, you get a job, and you work there the rest of your life, you know, and then what's left of you at the end of that experience, you can retire, you know. So this was all a new experience for me with this self-employed thing, and it happened all through happenstance. It was just a number of, you know, life events that conspired to put me where I am right now. So the immediate benefit that I had learned from being self-employed is, I work here at the house, and my wood yards on our acreage here. So I'm here, and
Yeah.
I'm here when the kids go to school in the morning. I'm here when they come back. If I'm out on a delivery, I'm still going to be back pretty soon. I think about when I used to have I'm using my air quotes here, Dan, a real job. you know I would leave, and that's what we do. We leave everyone in this world who we care about the most. We leave them to go spend all day with people that you
Yep.
hate,
Yeah. Exactly.
people that you don't love. And that's what I did. I used to drive every day. I would drive to Cleveland. It took me 1 hour to drive there, and I would drive to work. I would send an email to a person who sat 10 feet from me, you know, and then
Yep.
I would turn around and drive an hour home. Um, so, but now working at home, I'm here, and the business is here, and Um, but again, I would inject my favorite author, Leo Tolstoy. you know, all happy families are the same. So we get along, and it's nice to be here, and that's what I think. Even if my two daughters and my wife all have differing input, to the business, they're still always here. And that's what I would tell John, that even if, it's slow going, or you got some family that's in and some that's out and some that's just got one foot in, one foot out, you're building, a lifetime of memories. And when he's, an older age and the kids are getting older, or, you know, it, it all makes sense to them, and it brings back happy memories. And I think that's something that gets passed on,
Yep.
because that's going to be their turn one day.
Yep. Yeah.
Hmm.
So when you started out, you didn't find, because you were mentioning how like you would get in your car in the morning and drive to work, and so a lot of
Yep.
people have that routine of 8 to 10 hours a day is devoted to their job. But when
Right.
you're self-employed, and you could end up sometimes maybe devoting 16 hours of your day,
Yeah.
if you,
But my days are different, though. They're not, they're not all in a row, the
yeah,
hours that you work. And, there's days where I just don't have it, and then I just come sit on the couch and watch TV until that feeling goes away. Then I'm back at it, with whatever my task was for the day. That part's enjoyable. And, especially now coming into summertime, my oldest daughter's home from college. The youngest one's going to be out of school here pretty quick. And, here we are all together, and that's what we, I think a lot of the things that we do in life are backwards anyways. We work our whole lives when we're young and full of life and have all these interests,
yeah,
until you're old and you can't travel anymore. You can't you can't go too far from the house because you got to be close to the bathroom. You're on all these medications that make you feel funny, and you can't travel. I mean, I dealt with all that with my dad. And so we do a lot of things backwards, and the same thing with our kids. When the kids are younger and you want to spend more time with them, that's when you're working your whole life away,
yeah,
at the office. So that is one of the joys of, for me, was being self-employed, was even if they have zero interest, guess what? I'm still here.
yeah.
Hmm.
I thought you were going to say when you weren't feeling it, you'd come inside and sit on the couch and watch the Back 40 Firewood channel on YouTube. But to get you motivated and pumped up. But I guess
Yeah.
you didn't want to admit that on air.
I watched reruns of Gilligan's Island and Chips and BJ and the Bear. Yeah.
PJ and the Bear.
And the Waltons and Little House on the Prairie. My whole life revolved around those five shows, I think.
Wow. Mine did not. We only had 3 channels on our TV,
Oh
and
no.
yeah, I didn't grow up with a lot of TV involved, but that's probably good.
Yeah. So I don't know, Dan, do you think we answered the question for John, or did we just
Well, I think so. I mean,
uh-huh.
as with anything, I don't think firewood is any different than if you were going to, open a bakery, or, I think having the conversation with your family, judging their interests, and then if they're not quite there, if they can see the passion and the desire and something that you want to do, I think, like you had mentioned, you have the support. Whether or not they're actually physically involved may come with time, but
Hmm.
I think starting out, it's just see how it goes. I mean, my whole thing, like when I started my YouTube channel, the number one rule after my first video posted was I was not I couldn't tell my wife's family about it. So, but now all of a sudden, it's like it's more accepting. So I think with anything, it's like, just see how it
Hmm.
goes. And I mean,
I was in the same boat too. My daughters, I was forbidden to tell anyone.
anyone
Uh,
or only family,
anyone,
anyone.
anyone,
Oh,
anyone. People now know, it's gotten
yep,
out, but at that time, oh, no way.
yeah, yep. It,
Yeah.
but it didn't. it didn't last too long because I think my brother-in-law found me on YouTube and then brought it up at one get together, and um, so the thing that really helped though was the pandemic. Is that we weren't getting together as with our family members as much, so nobody could ask
Yeah.
me about it and bring it up as conversation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy how that worked out, but yeah, it was. But now, now it's like I can't go to family get-togethers because I got to make sure I have plenty of new Sharpies, signed autographs, and my 8x10s are still at the printer. I got to pick them up, and it's a
Have you
rough.
ever been noticed out in public yet?
Oh yes.
Really?
This is a funny story involving family and getting noticed in public. So my brother-in-law he builds houses. He's a builder. So
Uh-huh.
every year we have up here what's called the Parade of Homes. And so like all of the area builders feature one of their houses that they've built. And then on I think it's for 10 days, the public can go and like tour the houses. So you buy these tickets and then they have it like mapped out where you go to house 1, then house 2, then house 3. So anyway, it's a big deal. Everybody goes to it. They all go check out the new houses. So we go to my brother-in-law's house, and we walk in and we're walking around, and we go to leave. And as we're leaving, like there's a flow of people coming in, and all of a sudden somebody says, "Hey, you're that guy from Back 40 Firewood." And my wife looked at me with a look of terror in her face like I had never
Oh no.
seen. She's like, "Oh my gosh." But then the funniest thing was that her brother, who was there working, he's like showing people around the house, he had mentioned that the day before, the local news anchor from town here had come through the house and nobody recognized her. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, so there you go. That shows you the power of YouTube.
Yeah. No kidding.
What about you? I'm sure you've been recognized out
There
in.
are a few. Our air conditioner broke one summer, and um, I called the furnace company to come fix it, and the he knocked on the door. I opened it up, and he goes, "Hey, you're that guy from YouTube." He says. I was worried, maybe I had lent him I borrowed his wheelbarrow and he was wanting it back or something. That's always my first concern. And then there was another one out here. The Amish, we have a large Amish community, and they have these salvage grocery stores where they'll buy, scratch and dents from,
Oh,
like,
yes. Yep.
and then they resell them. And I love going to these things. They're so much fun. It's just like it's just like a Disneyland. You go in there and you look for all this just random stuff, and it's real cheap. So I walked into this one salvage store, and I was just going up and down the aisles, and this guy started looking at me, and I was like, "Oh God, I must have borrowed money off of him or something." And he says, "Joe," he says, "OWB, how you doing?" He's a very nice man. He was from Southington, it's a couple towns over here, and we just shot the breeze for a while. It was a real nice time.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Good times. There's been a few
Yeah.
other instances where somebody will just, and then the thing that I always struggle with is I don't know if they're saying hello and introducing themselves to just say hello, or, because you don't want to like just say hi and then keep walking and be rude, and, but then again, you don't want to get dragged into a 45-minute conversation about,
Yeah. That's
something.
because you're not self-employed, because I'll stand there and talk all day long. Yeah. Don't you have somewhere
Oh,
else to be? No, I don't.
nope. Nope.
Got all day, bud. All
So
right.
yeah,
Well, I will.
I think we probably, well, hopefully, like if not, John, send us another email. But it was good hearing from you. Good getting your email. And if anybody else listening wants to send an email, the email address is thewoodhounds@gmail.com.
Wow, that sounds pretty easy to remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, the podcast continues to grow, and it wouldn't be doing it without the support of the listeners. And I would just want to thank everyone for making us a part of your week. And it's just fun watching our dashboard and seeing how well we have been received. So
Yeah.
far, so good.
Yes, it's great. Just see and the reach, like how the other countries that people are downloading from and listening, and
Yes. Yes.
it is great. So thank you once again, Woodhounds, and hopefully you'll be tuned back in here next week for another episode.
So, Dan, maybe we better start the music.
Yes, wait. Where did I put that guitar pick? All right, here we go.
All right, there we go. All right, we want to thank everyone for tuning into the Woodhounds, and we hope to see you all back here next week, Wednesday morning, every Wednesday.
That's right. Enjoy your week, Woodhounds, and catch you on the next one. Everyone have
a great day.